Welcome back to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera. Today, I'm excited to have my guest co-host with me, Miss Lisa Evelinn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am always excited to have people on the show that I personally know and respect and just am so amazed by. And over the years that I've gotten to know you, I feel like every single time we have like a coffee chat, dinner, just even like a brainstorming session, I always walk away feeling like, oh, she gets it. or it's like, okay, she gave me like something. Like I just walk away feeling just rejuvenated in one way or another. And I have known you almost, Adrian just turned 10. So, and I got licensed in 14. You got licensed
in 16.
16.
But I've been working since 15.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So we've known each other, 9 years?
Mm-hmm. It's been about 8-9 years now.
Oh my God, time went by so fast. And you've been an entrepreneur for a while.
Long time.
And you have gone into industries and you have crushed it very early on. And so I met you in real estate. And so just seeing your journey of transitioning from one business into this big world of real estate that now everybody thinks they can do it.
That's a whole episode in itself.
Right. And I mean, just watching you like just come into this industry and just master so many elements of it. And so I would love to hear just your journey of just like how you even ended up getting into entrepreneurship.
So that's a big, long story. It's kind of run in my blood, I think, since birth. I don't have one of those stories where I, had the lemonade stand, and I don't have one of those stories. I've just always been in pursuit of doing my own thing, as cliche as that sounds, and in pursuit of ultimate freedom. I'm a horrible employee. Absolutely horrible employee. I guess I shouldn't say that, but I'm always going into a space and trying to figure out how it can be done better. What would I do if I were the boss? That kind of thing. I've always carved out my own lane. So that's just kind of how my brain works, I think. And the entrepreneurial path was a natural path for me for those reasons, but it came out of being fired too many times because of my son, my oldest son, Trey, when he was a baby, he had like upper respiratory issues. And so I was always having to miss work because of doctor's appointments, or he'd be sick and I'd have to call off. I'd be late or, whatever, and got fired. And, just after being in the corporate world for so long, it's just like, you know what? I need to take care of my babies.
Yeah.
I need to be able to be home with them. I was already a single mom and I didn't want to be the absent single mother. So during that time I was a hairstylist, and so was in and out of salons, but ultimately went home and, built that business in my house, went back and forth in between salons. And just wanted to be home for my kids and wanted to be present, whether I was home, but I was working, but I was there. So just, the hustle and the struggle of single motherhood and wanting to raise your kids, and the real estate journey just kind of happened. It wasn't something that I pursued. It was, I always knew I wanted to be an investor, a real estate investor. I always knew what that path was and ultimately wanted to do that. And one of my hair clients was a real estate agent. And I really didn't understand what that meant, being a real estate agent, because I had no point of reference, really. I had lived in apartments my whole life and had a house, but me and my mom got it together, but my mom handled all of the real estate agent stuff. So I really wasn't sure what that meant to be a real estate agent. But my client was like, what are you going to do? Because my two oldest children were moving out. And my youngest was during that time going to go be with his dad. So it's like, okay, Lisa, what are you going to do? Yeah. And during that time, I had finished my associate's degree, which to me it didn't mean a whole lot. But, and I had thought about going back to school to finish my degree, my 4-year degree, because I had always been back and forth in and out of school as well. Always in pursuit of the norm, right? But was weighing more student loan debt in comparison to what I was going to be making, starting out in a brand new industry. So my client was like, well, why don't you just become a real estate agent? I was like, I don't want to be a real estate agent, because I had no idea, what that was. And she was like, well, you can, get access to the listings, and you can learn about the industry and blah, 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 and have access, and you can do what you want to do. And I'm like, whatever.
It takes Lisa a while to
sink in.
She's like, because so many people will see things, and I'm like, Lisa, that's you. She's like, I don't know. Like, you are not one of which is what I love about you. You're not one of those people that quickly just like you are a thinker. Like, you think about it. And so I can only imagine. I wish I was a fly on the wall when she was trying to present this real estate thing to you.
I totally blew her off. Totally. It's like, yeah, right, whatever. But because I didn't have any positive examples of what that was. And I thought, fast forward, I ended up becoming her assistant. And I thought we were going to go do all the fun stuff with looking at pretty houses and talking to people and, doing all the HGTV stuff. And this was before HGTV got really big. She stuck me behind a computer and put me in front of a phone, and I had to make phone calls and do some marketing. And that's the worst place to put someone like me. So I got baptized by fire in that industry. Her other assistant quit, and I was quickly moved into that transaction coordinator role. So I was behind the scenes processing transactions. And I just remember looking up at the wall of all of her transactions, and she would have an S by some of them, and she'd have a B by the other one. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is that? One for seller, one for buyer. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, this address, who, so are we representing the buyer? Are we I was totally confused. So I was, when you say clueless, I was clueless. But figured it out. Was with her for about 10 months and couldn't take it anymore because I felt like I was trapped. Got my license in 2016. I started working with her in July of 2015. Okay. Yeah, and then got my license in January 4th, 2016. Wow. And by May, I was out on my own, hit the ground running, had great people that reached out to me that wanted to support my business, as far as a lender and title company and things like that, and hit the ground running, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah. And you have been, you've really been crushing the real estate industry. Like, you learned so much pretty much on your own. Because I think people think like you learn everything in school. Oh, gosh. I was like, the school part of it, they just teach you, in my opinion, just enough so you could pass the test. Absolutely. I just remember getting to the brokerage my very first day, and I was like, wait a minute, like, I never had even been taught on how to fill out a contract. Like, just
had never seen the contract.
Right? But I was going to sell real estate. And so,
because that's what they tell you. Oh, you could do this. Right. I distinctly remember one of the instructors saying, don't let these seasoned agents tell you that you can't do this. Your license is just as good as their license. I remember that, and I felt so empowered by that. Yeah. And then I got behind the scenes and, thinking about all of the things that the lady that I was working with, thinking about all the things that she did and what was all involved in that process, and just feeling like, man, this is someone's life in our hands. Right. Literal life, because you get so involved with them, and this is the most money that they're ever going to spend outside of owning a business or in the stock market or whatever, and I just felt the weight of all of that. and wanted to really elevate what I did once I got on my own, and wanted to do it a little differently. And I saw how people just treated it as a transaction. They treated it as a check coming in at the end. Oh, I got to get this closed. I got to get this done. How many transactions did you do, and how many closings, and what's your GCI, and what's your volume, what's all this. And I'm a numbers person, and that's really important to me. But at the end of the day, it was like, each one of these closings represents a family, represents, a person. Because I remember when we bought a house, and just knowing and understanding how important that was. So it never was a transaction for me. And so I got really busy in August of 2016. I think I had like 5 or 6 closings that month, which is unheard of, coming straight out the gate. And I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I'm like, I can't do this, because I felt like things were slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't control everything. And I'm a systems and process person. So I stop the bus in the middle of the street. I have to put systems together. And I got to make sure that this is a fluid process for people. And that turned into so much more than what I expected. And it really forces you to dive in and really learn the business, and learn what people need, learn what people are expecting from you. How do you make this an enjoyable experience? Because buying a house is one of those the big 5 things that are the most stressful. So I didn't want to make it stressful for people. I wanted to do a good job. So, and I feel like when my mom bought the house, I feel like we were mismanaged, and we weren't informed, and we weren't fully educated. And I'll just tell you a quick story, because it's all about being real. Like, I'm one of those people, like, you ask me a question, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Right. When we bought the house, and maybe I can't throw our real estate agent under the bus, because I wasn't super involved in it, but we didn't get a home warranty. And I don't know if it's because my mom chose not to, or if it was she didn't know. I'm gonna have to ask her that, but she probably doesn't remember. But anyways, we didn't have a home warranty, and our furnace went out in the wintertime. So it's me, my mom, and my 3 kids in the house with no furnace in the middle of winter in Central Ohio. So we were heating the house with the stove, right? Because we didn't have a home warranty. So when you have those kind of stories, and you have that kind of real experience, it makes you look at these transactions and these closings a little differently. And I am a mother hen with my clients, whether they want me to be or not. So I almost force them to make sure that they cross all of those T's and dot all of those I's. And my little tribe of people that work with me, I make sure that they're caretakers. They're not just looking at these people as a paycheck.
Right. Which is, it's so, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's why you and I have always been like easily connected in that way, because we're always thinking about the service. We're always thinking about the people, the person. And so for you, what would you say, like, as you have transitioned into multiple just kind of iterations of business, there's obviously a mindset component to that, like being able to shift your mindset in ways that, maybe quite frankly didn't know you even needed to do. Because I even remember at one point at the beginning, where we were just getting to know each other. For me, real estate was never at the level of like, I liked it, I never loved it. And so there was a difference behind, my, I recognized the people element of it. And then I also was like, this is a lot, like the heaviness. And so it goes back to what you said earlier, like I knew it wasn't for me, because I wasn't able to do it in a way that I felt passionate about it. I felt like it's something you are in fact passionate about. And so I think you might remember this story, but I just remember at the beginning, because you are the type of person that it's got to be right. It's got to be it. And I love that about you because there's a standard, right? Like you're not just out here doing whatever. And I think sometimes in entrepreneurship, you see people just doing whatever.
Yes.
And sometimes it works for them. And that I think that pisses some of us off because we're like, that's a mess.
Yes.
But there's obviously a niche for that. There's a target market of people who don't care and fine. But then, there's other entrepreneurs who are really like, no, it's got to look a certain way. It's got to be a certain type of way. And I just remember us having this conversation about volume. And there was a specific agent we constantly always was like, but he got all those folders on his desk. And, so just kind of comparing ourselves in a way, and which is also really, it's okay to have to be motivated by people, but the comparison to do that is just robbing you of what you really know that you can do and what you should be doing. And I just, we were talking about this person and I had said to you, I was like, well, have you ever checked what their actual volume was year one or even year two? And he was like, well, no, I never looked at it. So, but right away we go to the computer and we pulled it up and it was 0.
Yes.
It was 0.
Yes.
And even I think it was 0 for up to year 2 or 3 or something crazy.
Right. And it was something small. After that, yes.
And then we had looked at your year one in comparison and you actually had killed it.
Yes.
And so I just remember seeing see, that's why you can't, because it's a mindset piece. And it's okay. Just even thinking about, as you have gone into such a competitive industry, entrepreneurship is not for the weak, but real estate is really not for the weak.
No, it is not. So
how has that process been for you, and just being able to really hone in on this is what I do and this is how I do it, and I do it so well, and not comparing yourselves to all of the other entrepreneurs, whether it be in this industry specifically or others, that mindset piece of it.
For me, it is. I've always been the type that I want to fly where the eagles are, and even in my former business of being a hairstylist, I was around people who did it and did it well, and so for me, it really isn't about comparing myself to those other people. It was more so, let me look into that business. Let me see what it is that they're doing. And I'm a sponge and I'm a student by nature. So I really wanted to learn, what does it take in order to be successful at that level? Because you real estate runs the gamut. You have people who sell 1 or 2 houses a year, maybe. And then you have people who do hundreds of transactions a year. So for those people that were doing it at a volume that I, could admire and respect, I wanted to peek into their business and see what they were doing and how they were doing it. And then that's a learning opportunity for me. So the particular person that you're talking about, this person just does it at a level that the whole industry in Central Ohio, we kind of sit back and marvel, because he's one of those people that, to think about the level at which he does stuff, and he does it on his own, is just, your mind is blown, because it is so involved. But for me, it gave me motivation to say, okay, I know I'm good and I know I can be good, but I got to polish this and work that, and I got to learn this and I got to do that. Because I felt like looking at, flying with these eagles and, running with the best of them, even though, my little stuff wasn't keeping up with, I was learning and I understood the mindset of how they thought and what they did and what their routines were and, how they did it. And so I gleaned so much from being in that environment. And it just, iron sharpens iron, and it just made me better. And I just kept growing and kept moving and that time of the only downside with flying with eagles is that if you're a baby eagle and your wings haven't fully developed, sometimes you feel like you're behind the ball game and you feel like, okay, I gotta, because what they're telling you and all the training that you go through is like, you can do this and you can go and you just have to put in the work and you just have to do this or do that. And, but for me, it was never about picking up the phone and hammering calls. And I'm not a telemarketer. Yeah. And I hate to be cold called. Absolutely hate it. You could sell me the thing that I need most in my life.
Right.
But if you cold call me, I am not answering your call.
Yeah.
And so I just had this block. If that's what it takes, no, thank you. I'll just do my little thing over here. So mindset wise, it was, I got to do this right because people's lives are in my hands, literally.
Yeah.
And so the only way that I knew how to get better is to sit in every classroom I could get my hands on and be around those people who were doing it and doing it at a high level. So for me, it's the pursuit of education. I'm a nerd by nature. So being a student of the industry, being a student of the people around me, I attribute a whole lot of my success to that.
Yeah. And speaking of success, do you feel like your definition of success has changed over the years?
Absolutely.
What would you define? How do you define success?
Well, it's funny because when I was thinking about when I first started, I used to look at the lady that I was working with. And I mean, to this day, she still runs a heck of a business. And I have a lot of respect for her for what she does. And I used to think to me, because she would come in and, she'd be, she'd look at her own numbers and be upset. And I'm like, girl, you are killing it. Like I used to tell her, just sit here for a minute and just look at this. Look at what you've already done and what you've been able to do over all of these years. And I used to just marvel at her success. And I used to tell her all the time, man, if I could just sell like 5, maybe 6 houses a year, man, that's gravy for me in comparison to what I was making when I was a hairstylist. And to think about that now, I'm like, oh gosh, I think I would pass out if I only had 5 or 6 transactions a year. But success for me, has always been, and the whole reason why I became an entrepreneur is because I have been in this ferocious pursuit of freedom. To be able to define my own life, live by my own rules, and do what I want to do. Not in that sense of like being a boss or all those cliche things that you hear, but really having the freedom to be the master of your own ship and to create your own path. Because people and society will put all of these definitions on you and put all of these expectations on you. And I've been around people who are of means my whole life. And, people look at people who look like they got it all together and have all this money and property and houses and land and cars and money and outfits and hairstyles and all. When you sit that person down in the chair and you are their hairstylist for 10, 12 years, and you get to hear the story, the truth behind all of that, it's not so glamorous anymore. Yeah. And it's not something that I ever really wanted to pursue. It wasn't about the glitz and the glamour for me. It was all about being comfortable in my own skin, being able to create my own life, and not answering or having to make any apologies or explain, as Adele says, I'm a grown woman, I can do what I want to do. I don't have to explain myself to you. That to me is freedom.
Yeah.
In personhood. The financial side of that is probably going to be a little further down the road, but we're working towards it. Yeah.
I love how you explain that, because I think oftentimes, and we've talked about it, just the journey of, being in those spaces. Sometimes you feel a little bit alienated and you feel like, okay, it's because not a lot of people get that. They don't understand the emotional, just the roller coaster of emotions that, whether you are an entrepreneur or you're working, for a corporation and you have aspirations to lead, or you have aspirations to, go further in your company, that is not a road that a lot of people go on. So already you're looking at a smaller pool of folks. And then when you are, so focused on these things, then that circle becomes even smaller.
Man.
And I think the hardest part about it sometimes, as we are in this space of, okay, I know my purpose. There's no confusion about that. I know who I am. There's no confusion about that. But not being able to have people who also understand and can appreciate why you are the way that you are, why you decide to do your business the way that you do it. I think for me, like, it's interesting. I had never really thought about it, but I feel like, you know, once I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm done with certain behaviors, certain just environments I didn't want to be a part of anymore. I just found myself like, well, damn, I don't really have a social life outside of I love my family. I love the life, God willing, that I've been able to have. But I also feel like, you know, I never wanted my full life to be associated with a business, a title, you know, a responsibility. Like sometimes I just want to be, and I want to be able to be around people that I don't feel like I have to put on a show for. I don't have to front in any particular way. And I have found that, like, sometimes, like, really I am alone or I feel alone. And being able to find friendships at this season of, like, because the hustle is what you sometimes in ways is like you're like, okay, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do this. And then no one really talks about, okay, that loneliness. Yeah. Like I'm not at the beginning. I'm not where I want to be, but that intermediate, that in between,
nobody understands.
Nobody understands that, and how you navigate the fact that, like, you know, you just sometimes don't always have time, or you just. So I find it harder now to have meaningful friendships and relationships that I probably have ever had, where I see people and everything is perception, right? Like social media, I'm like, damn, bitch, you didn't invite me. I would have cared. Like, was you coming? Was you really getting?
Were you really going to come, or did you have something else to do?
Put on that white outfit and go to that event? You was not going, Christina. You don't even like wearing white. Stop playing.
Right.
But I just, you know, sometimes I get in my head about the fact that I feel like when you're in these seasons and in these journeys, like, you just are kind of by yourself.
I think that you should find comfort in knowing that the air is really thin at the top, and it takes a certain kind of awareness and being to be able to exist in that rare air. You're lucky enough that you have a husband. Yeah. You know, and you have somebody that you can go home to every day. When you don't have that loneliness is on a whole nother level. Yeah. So it's, but I find it to be comforting, and I see other women that are in that same space within their own industries, within their own right. And I gain power from them to know that it's okay, because a lot of that loneliness comes from the world telling you that this is how it should be and this is how you should exist. But the reality is that even if you were to get around those people, and even if you did have a whole group of friends, that very few, if even one, would really be able to relate to what it is that you are doing or that you're aspiring to. Because most people don't understand how your brain works. Right. They just don't. And, you know, I'm a little older than you, so I've been in this space a little longer than you. And I'm so comfortable, Christina, in knowing that I have friends that I can count on one hand, you know, that I know that are my true friends. Yeah. And they don't even fully get it sometimes, right? And sometimes something happens and I want to pick up the phone and I'm like, they're not going to get it. Yeah. Love them, but they're not going to get it. So who do I call? Who do I call when I'm really excited about something or something great happens, but then they're not going to understand the context of why it's great, or, you know, what the importance of it is, or how it even came to be, and they just have this idea in their head about what it is. And they're not going to be able to relate to what it actually is, so that they can fully rejoice with me. So that's that conversation between you and your creator. Yeah. And that's where you find solace, and that's where you find communion and comfort. But sometimes I remember my old pastor he told a story about how there was a little kid and he would have nightmares and he'd get scared and he'd go running into his parents' bedroom, mommy, daddy, whatever. And, you know, the dad would say, just, you know, pray and ask God to protect you. You know, God is there. He's with you. He's, you know, you're going to be okay. And so after this happened a few times, the little boy looked at his dad and said, "But Daddy, I need something with skin on it." Because he wanted something that he could physically feel being next to him to protect him. So, but sometimes that human connection is what we need. So it's important. I think as society continues to be technologically advanced, we're moving further and further apart from each other.
Right.
So we don't have those social connections that we used to have. They're not as deep as they once were because we don't depend on each other anymore for that level of comfort and that level of brotherhood, sisterhood, that family outside of your, blood family. So it's important, I've thrown the idea around several times of just having those get-togethers like they used to do. They used to have socials, the house parties and, come to your house for tea and lunch and, those kind of things, going back to those, having those social connections so that you can, because I'm telling you, the group of friends that I have, we all talk about the same thing as far as not having a whole lot of friends. And that's just the reality. And those people that do have a lot of friends, it's like, are y'all really friends?
Right.
Can you pick up the phone at your time of need and call any of those people and for sure without a shadow of a doubt that they're going to be there for you? If I feel like if you can't do that, they're not really a friend, they're an associate.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, this road of entrepreneurship, the road to success is a very lonely situation. But I've been alone all my life. I was the only child that my mother raised. I have siblings, but I'm the only one that she raised. So that feeling of alone I've grown accustomed to it. Not to say that it's easy. It's not easy.
Right.
I'd love to come home to somebody that knows and understands me and can get in my head and understand what I'm saying. And
I think everybody
feeling.
wants that. Yeah. Because, even I'm married and I love my husband. So if you're listening, I'm not throwing no shade.
They're actually talking about you.
I love him to the moon and he knows it.
Yes.
But I think even then, there have been elements of times where, I'm married, I'm in a relationship, but I still feel alone.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think even having a partner, sometimes you can still feel that way because people are so wired so differently. And my husband, he's very, very this way. So entrepreneur stuff, he's like, call somebody else.
Yes.
They don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
But I love how you kind of put that. And I think that, I think that's where we have opportunities to create, villages amongst each other. And that's what I love about you.
That's why I'm sitting here.
Yeah. Literally, I feel like, we don't get to see each other all the time, but when we pull up, we pull up.
Absolutely.
And when you hosted that gathering at your home a couple months ago, I just remember thinking damn, this is the first time, I had been just around, sat down with a group of women that I didn't know.
And no competition.
No.
That's the other piece of it. That's the other piece of, you can be in a group and in a crowd of let's just talk about women, since we're sitting here. Women, man, I find that's my biggest obstacle in business, in life, and sometimes even in friendships that I thought were friendships. We as women, we have to stop competing with each other. Yeah. Because you can never be me and I can never be you, and neither one of us should want to do that. Right. So finding that grace of loving oneself and being accepting of oneself, and don't compare yourself to anybody because, first of all, you don't know the journey. You have no idea what it takes in order for that person to be who they are. But to stop competing with each other. And the people that I want in my world, and I said this several years ago, and it is held true for me, I only want genuine relationships. Right. If I feel like that there's some kind of ounce of competition, and because I don't feel like I'm anything that needs to be competed against, because my life is not a bed of roses. And people look on the outside in, but you have no idea what my life is. And to those women that are doing, quote unquote, better than me, whatever that means, I look to them and I salute them because I understand what it means to reach certain levels of success and comfort and happiness. but that feeling of, as you saw, that was a very small group of women.
Yeah.
Right. I think there was like 5 or 6 of us there. And each of those women, I feel no competition from.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They're genuine, pure souls that I have grown to love and appreciate. And I wish that circle was bigger. You know, there's some people that couldn't be there because they live out of state, but there's only a handful of people that I call my friend.
Yeah.
And I know will support and be there if I needed them. And I'm lucky to have you as one of those.
I was honored to be invited. I was like, wow, what's going on here? She had food, they had cocktails. It was a whole, I was just like so blown away because I had to think about it. I was like, damn, I don't think I've ever been invited to something like that.
Oh,
like something
really?
Intimate in a way, the way you did it, the way I had to think about it. I was like, I don't think nothing, at least in this moment, and forgive me if I'm forgetting, but nothing popped out in my mind that was something like that. Like I mean, outside of just like a birthday or something like that, but just like we're getting together,
just and no pretense, no agenda. Just here's some food. Drisa made some drinks for us. You know, it was just an evening. It was
amazing.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good, and I just felt so grateful. I felt like I left there, you know, because I think sometimes like you go and you meet other women and you're like, oh, how's this going to go? Because to your point, it hasn't always been easy for me with women either, even though it's like that's the realm of work that I'm in. But I think especially just like groups that already know each other, because I feel like they all knew each other. And I was like, okay, how's this going to go? But I was like, but if they're cool with Lisa, then I know I got to get along with them because it's like, it's all a group that she would have picked. So, but I appreciate you extending that. And I think that that's something that if you're thinking about like, you know, how can I create a village? What does that look like? Like for me, being able to be a part of that day, like that was something so intimate, so thoughtful. And it created an opportunity for us just as women to come together and we talked about the kids, we talked about a million things in that setting, but it was community.
Yes.
And I guess, you know, in that moment, you're reminded that you're not alone. Even though we might feel alone certain days, I think it's important to understand that, you know, there might be lonely days, but our life is not like we're not alone.
If you choose for it not to be, I think what it is that you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? You know, we've been listening to motivational speakers and sermons and ministers and whatever your cup of tea is. What does it mean to be true to yourself? And I think what it is accepting yourself with your faults and with your triumphs, and also being compassionate to see that in another person. And I think also it takes the people that you're around, they have to have some level of personal awareness, of personal accountability to say, no, I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to make excuses for my faults.
Right.
I understand what my faults are. I know what I need to work on, and I own it, and not take yourself so seriously.
Right.
Because I am the biggest critic of myself. I don't need anybody else to criticize me. I know. Trust me, girl. No. I know.
And it'd be all in her head, y'all. I just be like, Lisa, for years, I just was like, you need to be a broker. Like, just some people, you just can see things, but you got to be able to get there and see it for yourself. And I just always have felt like
I never wanted the responsibility.
I know.
I didn't want the responsibility, you know, and not to cut you off, I'm sorry. But Christina was telling me for years and years and years and years, Lisa, you need to be a broker. You need to be a broker. Like, girl, you need to be a broker. You can do this. And it was never, again, because I never sought out even becoming an agent, let alone a broker.
I know.
Really? For what? What am I going to... I don't want to manage agents. And I don't want if they mess up, it's on me. My license is on the line. I didn't want that level of responsibility. But again, going along that, it just holds true for who I am and what happens to me during life is that I'm always going to carve out, whether it's intentional or unintentional, I'm always going to carve out this own lane for myself because everybody else's way of doing things feels very constricting to me, and then I can't breathe, and so I have to branch out. And if I feel like I'm not being protected, if I'm a part of an organization, if I feel like I'm not being protected, and if I feel like I'm not being represented well, or if your morals and your values of what you're supposed to be upholding, and because I always find myself in places of leadership, whether I volunteer to be there or I'm voted in, or if I'm Lisa, you should do this or that. When I get behind those closed doors, and this has happened to me, I don't know how many times, I get behind the closed doors and what's printed on the wall and what's printed in the literature is not matching up. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
Not to say I'm not perfect by any means whatsoever, but there's a spirit of excellence that I'm always in pursuit of, right? With all of my flaws and imperfections, I'm always trying to make things great and trying to make things good, and being a person of integrity within those spaces. And if I feel like that you are not lining up, I will take all risk and jump ship.
Yeah.
Just like that. And it's not always, I didn't get into, it wasn't, I know I admire those people that create a plan and execute the plan, and step by step, day by day, guide by guide, they do what they planned out. Sometimes for me it is, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't look right, I'm out. I can't align myself with what these people are doing, and they may mean well, and that it may work for them, but I always have this inward knowing of what's good, what I'm going to be able to thrive in, and what I'm not. And once I find out, once that light bulb turns on, I'm a flight risk.
So that's the discernment of knowing, like, this don't feel right.
No.
And not all money is good money. Not all opportunity is your opportunity. And so I really appreciate you highlighting that, because I think, oftentimes we want to like quiet those inner voices or that inner feeling and being like, oh, maybe. And it's like, nah. Anytime I've ever gone against my gut in that way, I've always regretted it.
Absolutely. Always
regretted it, whether it be people, deals, situations. I'm just like, and now I don't second guess it. It has to be, I literally lean into that so much more. And I'm like, Absolutely. All right, how does this feel? And to your point, I think that's when you become super self-aware, super rooted in who you are and who you're not.
And guess what? You bear the consequence. You bear the consequence. It's not, you're not living in the consequence of what somebody else put on you.
Right. It's so true. It's so funny because even as a mom, I'm constantly like, damn, am I putting, like, I'm at a point now because I have awareness, and I realize, like, my parents did the best that they could, but some of the things they put on me, were not necessary. It wasn't, it's not something that I needed to carry on with my life, and not wanting to put that same kind of, energy or thought or, lack of, support. I just want to be able to give my kids the freedom. Obviously I want to give them support. I want to teach them what I've learned, but understanding that I have to be careful that I'm not putting any kind of those traumas or behaviors on them, because I'm unaware of the fact that I'm carrying that same baggage. And so, I'm navigating that space. You have adult children. I feel like I'm still trying to figure that out. Like,
no, I'm still trying to figure it out as well. I don't think anybody has the crystal ball. And if they act like they do, they are deceiving themselves, because each of those children, and this, are so different than the other. And how do you, when you're a young parent and you haven't had the proper parenting and you come from a space that isn't ideal, then you do carry that into your own parenthood. And you just, by the grace of God, they come out okay, right?
They survive. They're God willing.
They come out okay. Some of them are, they got scars and bruises. And, I'm one of those parents that I try to be as open with my children as I can. And I'm, what I tell my children is that I will never lie to you. So we never did, the crazy holidays. I stopped that like way early in their life, because I was like, there's no Santa Claus, right? There's no man that's going to come down a chimney that we do not have and give you anything. That's just not going to happen. Sorry to burst your bubble.
No, I'm still lying to Adrian. I don't know. This year I might tell him, Dalton. Last year I lost the Santa, the Elfie. I couldn't find it. I hid it, and then I couldn't find it, and it was Christmas time. And he kept asking me, when is Elfie? How come Elfie's not here? And I was telling Dalton last year, I was like, Dalton, I don't know what to do because he'll know if it's a different Elfie. And he's 10. So I'm just like.
And he still believes?
He believes. Oh, wow. And it's my fault because he's asked me. And part of me wrestled with, he was like, so Mom, like, there just be things like the Easter week.
Something's not adding up here.
And part of me just wants to keep him in this magical state. But I feel like it's coming to an end because there was this show we were watching on like either a WOSU or something, and it was a factory, and they were making the Peeps for Easter. And so they was just like showing how Peeps were made. And so he sits down, he sees them, he was like, Mom, those are the things we get at Easter, right? He was like, yeah. He was like, so then the Easter Bunny doesn't bring those. And I said, well, what? And he was like, those are the things that they come in my Easter basket.
Because
so
1 + 1 = 2, Mom.
He was sitting there.
You've been trying to tell me that 5 - 4 = 2, and that's not working for me
when
anymore.
I tell you, I started explaining. He was sitting there Indian style on the couch like, so if they're making these, then is the Easter Bunny not like? And I was like, no, son, these are different. You
got to think on your feet, Mom. You got to think on your feet.
No, son, these are different. These are not the same kind that you all get. And I just changed the channel because I part of me is like, okay, you need to be real. So I'm working on it. I think this is going to be the year, though. I feel like he's figuring it. He's putting it together.
He's a smart kid.
Smart kid.
So
I appreciate parents like you who remind me that my son is 10 and he's still like waiting for Elfie to pull up.
That's hilarious.
The 20, whatever, however many days of Christmas.
I'm so far removed from what you're talking about. I know. Are you talking about like the Elf on the Shelf thing? Okay.
He calls it Elfie.
Elfie. Okay.
And so Elfie does all these random ass things leading up to Christmas. And so every night I'm like, towards the end, you're so sick of it as you're throwing Elfie on the most random places. And Ken is like, you started this. You deal with it. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's my own, because my childhood was so... It was just, I never believed. I saw my mom wrapping the presents the morning of, or not getting any presents at all because, she just didn't have it. And I remember her being so emotional, like few different Christmases where she was like, Tina, like, I didn't get you anything, but I promise you when I get paid. And I was like, Mom, it's cool. Because I was the oldest and I always knew what it was. And, she didn't have no support. So she would do what she could for the younger ones. And I just remember, where I would see this magical Christmas on TV and thinking like, damn, like Christmas is not magical.
Man, TV messes you up.
Mess me up. Or going to City Center as a kid and you see all the families together shopping and I feel like there was a nostalgic element to the holidays back in the 90s. Today, if I had grown up,
how old are you, Christina?
Right. No, but the 90s,
the 90s.
There was something about the 90s. If you look at all the iterations of the holidays, 80s and the 90s, and based on what I have seen, there was such there was a different element to how the holidays, how they were able to portray it, how it felt, how it smelt, the marketing. I think that was probably just at the high end of what marketing was like when it came.
Probably a lot of it is because of the onset of the internet.
Oh, yeah. Well, the internet didn't really become a thing until early 2000s, though.
No, honey.
Yeah, so with the internet from...
Early 2000s, yes, maybe. But late, like mid-90s is when we used to have the dial-up, the little floppy thing that you put in. Like, my high school was one of the few high schools, Grove City High School, Grove City Greyhounds, yes. I'm a GC girl. Was one of the very few schools that got the old Macintosh Apple computers. So
you was playing Wagon Trail. Did you have Wagon Trail? See, you didn't even have Wagon Trail. It was a computer game. It was like we were
playing Atari and...
No, we didn't have that. We had Wagon
Miss
Trail.
Pac-Man and Pac-Man and
Pac-Man
Space Invaders.
Yes. Wagon Trail was a game you played in school.
How did we get here?
I don't know. But it's just, there was just a different element back in the day. Me and Dalton was talking about this earlier. It's just like, it's different now. Everything is just different.
I am feeling my age, and I was having this conversation with somebody that's your age, because we were watching stuff about, the 50-year anniversary of hip hop, and I'm like, man,
Wow.
the fact that it's been 50 years is insane. Because I remember rappers delight coming on the radio.
Yeah.
And I remember, the guys in my neighborhood would have the cardboard boxes, and they get the big cardboard boxes and cut them up and put them in the middle of the floor. And, we want to be B-girls on the side. Wow. Watching the dudes,
I wish I could have seen you back in that day. I would have loved it.
I'm still the same.
Okay.
I'm still the same. And I've never been able to be a part of what everybody else was doing. I've never been that.
So
ever.
You didn't have like the two-tone jogger pants? You with like the
I think I had one pair that were black, and it had the like neon little stripes on the side.
I would love it.
Yeah, but I hardly ever wore them because it didn't fit who I was.
Okay.
I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I was a church girl back then too.
Okay.
So it wasn't, I was raised apostolic. So.
Oh, so you had the long.
No. I was all, no,
okay.
Well, yeah, that was what I was supposed to be doing.
Got
but
it.
again, who I am, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Show me in the Bible where it says that I can't wear pants.
Right, exactly.
Show me in the Bible where it says I can't wear mascara.
I think we were apostolic for like a month, and we would kind of go to church and had these long skirts
long
on,
dresses
and
and
then I
long
think we
hair.
just never went back.
I
Yeah.
always had cute hairstyles. Like, what do you mean I can't cut my hair? Like, what are you talking about? I've been wearing mascara since I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Do I look like I'm a harlot? Come on now.
Wow.
To the point where they brought me upstairs. Like some of the girls, the pastor's daughters and the assistant pastor's daughter took me aside and took me up to the upstairs classroom and was like, Lisa, like, you can't be doing this because this is what the Bible says, and you're wearing makeup and you're cutting your hair. And I'm like, show me. Mm-hmm. And they always bring out that modesty scripture. And so I would ask them, do I look like a man? Because I have a cute hairstyle. Does that mean that I look like a man? And do I look like I'm a prostitute because I have on mascara and a little lip gloss? Like, well, then you should just do it because that's what our Pop, the nickname, because that's what Pop preaches. And I'm like, well, Pop is not God. Sorry.
Yeah.
So until God himself comes down here and says, Lisa, don't wear mascara, I'm going to go get me some L'Oreal or some Maybelline and call it a day.
I know that's right.
So that rebellion is just a part of my nature. I can't help it.
I think you're just inquisitive and good for good reason. Good reason.
I'm the one that annoys the teacher all the time because I'm always, excuse me.
You're the owl. You ever, the disc.
How about?
I already know.
Yeah.
You're an owl. And I love it because I always know if I need a critical thinker, and you have to have diverse, you have to have people who are able to like help you think through things or gonna give it to you straight and just gonna point out what it is. Helps people like me who are sometimes in the clouds. And I'm like, but I can't. And you're like, no, sweetie, I need you to think about this before you do it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you for more than one reason. Appreciate for you coming on today.
It's been a pleasure. It's my first podcast, guys.
Oh, it won't be your last. We'll bring you back because I feel like there's so much more I could talk to you about. Yeah. And I appreciate just your openness of sharing your journey and just giving us just an insight, a small snippet, because I know that there's so much more wisdom you have around just, entrepreneurship and just this journey. But we appreciate, you coming on today and being a part of our second season of True Print for Life.
That's
and
crazy.
Yeah, second season.
So I need to know, like, Christina is always so complimentary of everybody else, but she needs some flowers laid at her feet too, because I don't know how she does all. How do you do everything that you do? How? You have Femergy, you have this podcast, you're on the board, you're a mom, you're a wife, and there's probably some other stuff in there that I don't know about just yet because you haven't said anything about it. But how do you do all that you do? And you're so young. You're still so very young. And so it's amazing. I can't wait to see. Watching your journey is just as fun for me than that it is for you watching mine. And I just appreciate your pureness and your willingness to just be that person of integrity, because we need more people like you. And I keep telling you, you're going to be mayor of the city one day.
She keeps
and
telling me
then,
that.
who knows what else. Hey, I just met a senator, what was that, like a week and a half ago?
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And I was looking at her and I was like, everything that was coming out of her mouth, I was like, Christina needs to get into government.
I get it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about that.
I have another friend that's going to be a judge. So
I know. Yeah.
Lucretia, if you're listening,
right?
That judge spot is going to come up for you one
name?
day. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate your support always. You mentioned earlier, like a friend you can call and pull up. Like, I know I've called you on several different occasions and you've always, just been there and provided sound advice, or if I need the signatures, you got signatures for my campaign.
I do all that I can. Sometimes I'm like, Christina, I can't do it right now because I'm broke.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's not always about money. It's about time. And I appreciate the time that you give. And so we'll definitely have you back. And so every episode of True Print for Life, we always like to end with our own personal mantra. It's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.